So welcome everyone to Monday with Masami with the still parenthesis. Chris, I have not decided to remove the parentheses or not yet. We'll discuss it. Chris and I will discuss this. And today's January 18th. I added all up and it's a numerology number 1 again, right? Yeah. So it's a big day. It's a big week. I'm sure you're feeling this week. And I thought maybe we'll get started with the Dr. King's quote. We were just kind of talking about, what would he say? And would he have, well, of course he has some wisdom to share, right? And one of the quotes that I thought this would be a great one to take our time and breathe and meditate on it to begin this session today, the call together. Says, only in the darkness can you see the stars. Only in the darkness can you see the stars. Just want to sit with it for a little bit with that. So if you don't mind, get into a comfortable sitting. Lying down is fine. Just get yourself situated and let's kind of start thinking about that, what I just read. So only in the darkness can you see the stars. And maybe closing your eyes if that feels comfortable for you. Make sure you feel safe in closing your eyes. And generally, we feel the safety in our legs, particularly your thighs and the pelvic bowl. So you may want to move your pelvic floor, rocking forward and back, rounding your lower back and arching. Because if you don't feel safe, you will notice that the pelvic floor will have a little bit of a hard time moving smoothly. And then rocking side to side, shifting the weight to the right and to the left. And then gradually settle into your sitting. And lifting the top of your head. That's the position that I shared with you last week. And if you are new to this and you don't know where that point is, you place your left or right hand, it doesn't matter, to the back of your head where the occiput is. Basically, the back of your head goes out, okay? And then your neck begins. Place your hand right there and rest your heel of your hand onto that spot, and then place your middle finger. And that's the spot that you want to lift up towards the sky, okay? That's the best spot to get lifted. And when you lift that part, you'll notice your tailbone will come down and ground you better. But try lifting different parts of the brain, so maybe pulling the chin a little bit forward and try to lift it. You'll disengage from the pelvic floor the moment you do that. So come back to that position. Then you can engage your pelvic floor with your head. And then that will ground your heels as well. So take yourself into the dark night, new moon, and nothing but the stars, the Milky Way. It is so beautiful in this darkness that you can feel the twinkling of the stars. You can hear them. So be with that for a little bit here as you breathe slowly through your nostrils and slowly out the nostrils, just contemplating on this quote. Only in the darkness can you see the stars. Dr. King's quote. And let's all of us take a moment here and just 30 seconds or so. I don't know if Chris can give us the 30 seconds, but Let's breathe together in the darkness so we can see each other's twinkling lights and our inner stars shining in this group as we gather. Noticing your posture again, making sure you're lifting from that point on the top up towards the back of your head. And let's take slow breath in together and slow breath out. Let's start with 3 ohms today. So inhaling. Om. 2 more. Om. Om. When you're ready, letting the light shine into your eyes. Thank you for taking the time on a very important day to celebrate Dr. King and all that he has taught us and that continues to teach us. I'm always learning something from him every year. And this is a very big week for us in the United States. So, I think it's good that we're gathering. And for those of you that are gathering from outside of the United States, please hold us in your prayers as well. And, everyone's connected. So everything, how we're going to move forward as a nation is going to impact the world as well. And I think it's important as Americans that we live here to recognize that and to know that, because there's a truth in that. Growing up outside of the United States, our policies and our lives are impacted dramatically by what was happening in the United States. So it matters. Everything matters. All right. So Chris, you have anything to add before I start to go into VUCA?
Nothing other than just welcome to everybody and good to be with you again today. So we'll be asking some questions in a little while and getting some input from you. So stand by on that and let's get going.
Good, Iris. I like reading that. She said that I'm spending more time focusing on my feet while standing, lifting the arches of my feet and feeling my posture straighten and shoulder gently pulled back. Yeah, we talked about this in the breathing section, right? How the bottom of your feet really mattered. Okay. I'm not going to go into the physiology too much, but my love of body comes from fascial work. So there are secondary arches and the primary arches in the bodies. And the secondary arches are what we really need to be working on more and more, which are the arches that we didn't really come into this world with. So like the bottom of your feet, if you look at babies' feet, they tend to be flat, right? and they have to build up their arches by crawling. They have to learn to roll. They have to use their feet. And by doing these motions, they start to work on their arches and they start to support their arches. Then their breathing patterns begin to change also. So they can eventually get to the upright position. So those are the areas that tend to collapse a lot, start to kind of like flatten or lose the integrity of the tissues and so on and so forth, musculatures, and they tend to get pulled by the gravity. So you want to definitely work on your arches. Okay, and there's some great feet work too that we can do at some point. All right. All right, so let's go to the VUCA world because that's what we're exploring this month. And the last week was the first V, which was the volatility. And I hope you spent some time thinking about the word volatility. And, we live in a world of fast moving, chaotic, not sure, one day to another. A lot of us don't know where we're going, right? And the politics really have been showing that. Weather's been showing that. We were supposed to get a big snowstorm today. Nothing, right? Blue skies. So we don't know. We can't really count on the weather reports either. So, we talked about different volatility. The 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4 anymore. And how we're going to navigate this world that it's not linear in time anymore. And it's more of a spiraling kind of a time frame. So how do you fit yourself into that? Whether you like it or not, that's what's happening. So, jump in and really not get into the linear fashion of thinking so much. And the second one of the VUCA, for those of you that were not here last week, VUCA stands for V stands for volatility, U stands for uncertainty, C stands for complexity, and A stands for ambiguity. So we're doing the number 2, that's uncertainty. And uncertainty obviously means you cannot predict, we cannot forecast, we cannot anticipate. A lot of things are just up in the air, like everything went up in the air and nothing has quite landed, kind of a moment. So maybe some of you are feeling like frozen in time kind of thing, or just can't keep up with the different parts, moving parts. It's somewhat, it's irrelevant to try to predict, and I've been saying this, or base your future based on past patterns and past knowing. Those things are important. I mean, we have to know how to tie our shoes, right, from yesterday so you can tie them today. But there are certain things that you just can't base it on. This is what it used to be, so therefore it will be. So traditions are being questioned. Even just how we operate day-to-day businesses, government, school systems, just you name it, medical systems. Everything is starting to change because we can't operate it based on what it used to be. And it's financially too. This is when uncertainties always come with all kinds of other things, but financially is maybe the best place to see this too. The stock market is going crazy, yet the high rate of unemployment, it's just a lot of things do not make sense right now. But what I would recommend in 2021 is for you not to look away from your finances, but really open your eyes, get to know your finances, get to know the numbers. Because we don't live in a linear world, that does not mean that you don't need to look at the numbers. So that's the paradox. We're not 2 + 2 = 4 world anymore, but that doesn't mean that you can just completely ignore your retirement funds or you can ignore the day-to-day expenses. You may need to just sit down and say, these are the must-haves because I need this to have a fulfilling life and healthy life. And do I need these things? Maybe January is a good time to go over those and figure out how much money gets expended to this things and how much savings do I have, so on and so forth. So don't be afraid of numbers. I think a lot of spiritual communities, we tend to think, oh, I don't want to go down that road of money. I'm just going to have my financial advisor just take care of it and you're not involved with it. or you're not checking in with the banks to say, hey, do you have a better savings account that I could get a little more than this? Or, let's sit down with your partner and figure out what are the numbers. So in the time of uncertainties, I think it's important that you look into numbers a little bit more carefully this year. And health-wise, because we are in the uncertainty, you may need to have a little more grounding practice with the health world. So grounding your feet. But I've been working with a lot of clients that are not having a good schedule. And I can see that because it's January and coming off of the holiday seasons. It's so important right now that you start to say, okay, body, I'm sorry, I've been irregular with the eating habits. I'm sorry, I kind of went a little bit too much into the sugar. I am going to readjust this. You're going to have a conversation with yourself and say, I will have breakfast at this time. I will make sure I'm eating lunch at this time. And then, have a little bit of schedule, like anchor points, because everything else can get in between, can be a little bit chaotic. But having those moments of fueling your brain, fueling your heart, fueling your body with the nourishment is going to be very important. It's one of the things that I think what keeps me going, despite the fact that it's been pretty much nonstop for me. Chris will probably argue that I've been going nonstop since September, but technically probably since about before Thanksgiving, I really haven't stopped. But why am I able to show up fully in every session and in Monday with Masami and all that is because I have anchor points of eating. And I do that for myself. And then thanks to Chris, he's like, okay, we have lunch now. So one, you might want to find somebody like Chris in your life that will call on you and says, hey, lunch is ready. Come on upstairs. Okay. So thank God I have him in the uncertainty that I live in. And I wrote down a couple things like make sure that you are muscle testing yourself because things are changing so rapidly right now. I've noticed that my supplements needs are so different from even sometimes like morning to evening. What I think I need is not what I need. And so get out of that. I think this is what I need, or this is what Masami told me to take. So I need to take them like so regularly. I say supplement department, be a little bit more flexible, but check in with yourself. So check in with your head. What does the head say? What does your heart say? Is your hara, your belly saying yes to that supplement? And so I've been muscle testing a little bit more frequently right now. And I have to say that I'm kind of a little bit more leaning towards multivitamins right now. That's personally, but I can kind of sense that from a lot of women right now, is that not getting into specifics so much, but maybe go for a general multi, because I think a lot of us are exhausted from a lot of things that's going on in the world. And the holiday exhaustion is catching up to us, meaning not eating quite right. Okay. So do the multi if you have a really good multi. Do that. And then if you're a menopausal woman and you're no longer menstruating, and if you're men, please get the multi that do not have copper or iron in them. Okay. Remove the copper and iron from your multi, or make sure you get the ones that says no copper and iron. Okay. If you're still menstruating, then you can use the copper and iron. Okay. So I just wanted to mention that. Yeah, so it's impossible to plan too much ahead. So stay with what is unfolding in this moment. And that is the practice that we're doing this month, right? It's to come back to this moment. And later on, I'll have Chris have 30 seconds for us so that we can stay with it together, all right? And I think I'll take a pause here. Chris, you probably have a couple things to say, and I have a couple more things, and then we'll answer some questions. So. And then let's ask everybody too questions too.
Yeah,
So you want to start?
We'll do that. So what I wanted to focus on for uncertainty is a little bit in a different direction from what Masami said, but it's related. And one of those things is about the importance of doubt. So I want you to just feel that for a moment, about the importance of having doubt, about not resolving all of your doubt necessarily, about what function doubt plays. Because if we don't have doubt about what we're doing, we're probably not paying attention all that much. I think doubt is a reflection of the uncertainty around us, and it's also something of a signal, I would say, about having an attitude of humility toward what's going on, because we just can't know everything. When in human experience, human history, has a person ever held all the cards or known everything? I mean, when did we start having that expectation that we can or should know everything? It's a pretty recent phenomenon. So this is something that often is discussed when we're talking about especially spiritual development, is the importance of recognizing and even nurturing the doubts. That doesn't mean you hang on to them once they're resolved, but to really feel them and allow them to work on you. There's a certain tenderness that we have around doubt, but it's a really important piece of this whole process of being with uncertainty, just to acknowledge and to let that aspect of uncertainty show us what it has for us. Another area that I want to look at is the importance of questions. You've probably heard Masami say this. If you've worked with her directly, you know she said something like this, which is that we have to work on refining our questions. And another way of saying that is we have to ask better questions of what's around us, of what life is asking of us right now versus yesterday or a year ago or 10 years ago. So the burden is not on each of us to know everything about the future. All that we can do is pay attention to what's going on in our immediate field of experience. And sometimes that means that we have to admit that we don't know. And this is, Masami's piece that we posted up last week, which was titled "The Power of Not Knowing," directly again plays into this topic of not just doubt and asking better questions, but just allowing ourselves to be in that space, the liminal space. And uncertainty is something that really, in my view, it's a reflection of our aliveness. If we are certain about things, we basically shut off to reflecting about them. And I would challenge you to just think of something that you feel absolutely certain about, and then see how much are you paying attention to that thing on a daily basis that you're so certain of? Do you even think about it, or do you just assume it? And interestingly enough, a lot of the things that we have certitude about, we might also connect with something like faith or belief, and that's fine. But just know that our brains are very conservative. They're to the point of laziness when it comes to thinking. And so we have to watch ourselves, because we'll sometimes categorize something that we have certainty around, and we'll just forget to think about it, and then it disappears from our minds. So the last thing that I was going to say about this, and if it's okay, I'll read a quote, because this is a very famous quote from Rainer Maria Rilke. And it's from, some of you probably have read this. It's from his collection that was called Letters to a Young Poet. It was written in 1903. So I'm just going to read this passage that became one of the more famous lines in that book. But slightly paraphrased, he says, "I would like to beg you, as well as I can, to have patience with everything unresolved in your heart. Have patience with everything unresolved in your heart, and to try to love the questions themselves, as if they were locked in rooms or books written in a very foreign language. Don't search for the answers, which could not be given to you now, because you would not be able to live with them. And the point is to live everything. Live the questions now. Perhaps then someday far in the future, you will gradually, without even noticing it, live your way into the answer. So that's a little perspective on uncertainty that is also about the poetic and beautiful side of uncertainty, that it's an unfolding that we allow ourselves to enter into, and it's uncomfortable at times. But by not forcing it, by not shaping it into something familiar, we can allow unknown possibilities to show up in our lives.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. I can feel as collective, we're all feeling this one that he just read. And, Chris and I wanted to know what are some of the uncertainties that show up in your life too. The fact is, from this moment forward is uncertain. We don't know, but what are some of the things that are showing up in your life right now? We're curious. If you want to put it in the chats, would be great. And then also, how do you react to them? Are you a Googler? Do you go and find things right away? Chris knows this, and he can chime in. Feel free, Chris. Is that I have a hard time, to be honest with you, with the uncertainties. I'm sure it's from kind of the childhood. I wouldn't call it trauma, but I would say moving to another country and living with foster homes really it messed me up in many ways, and then made me who I am today. So it's awesome. But it's that uncertainty. Like, I didn't know where I was going to live. And then I know I had to move again, and I didn't know who was going to take me in, that kind of. So I get a little bit, there's a nervous energy around it. And I do react if I don't come back into my body and check in with my breath. And uncertainty makes me scattered. Like I shatter, almost scattered and shattered. So like I'm having to pick up pieces from different rooms. Does that make sense? Like I took off the one sock in the entryway, and my other sock is in the living room. Sometimes that happens. That's why Chris is laughing. But and then I forgot t-shirt in another room, and it's like, so I have to go back and collect myself. So that scattered feeling is something we all experience. So how do we work with that? What are some of the uncertainties that come up for you? We would love to hear from you guys. And then also I wanted to mention that there are so much uncertainties with health, right? Because I'm in the health industry. I'm a health intuitive. I work with people with health concerns all the time. And I received an interesting email, and this isn't the first time, but a lot of people want to say, is this going to cure me? Or, okay, if I do this, when can I start to feel better? Or when can I stop taking X, Y, and Z? Or, I have this many percentage of things that I need to get better, but can you tell me when I can reach that? And it's like, I cannot play into that because there's no such thing. It's an unfolding process, and we have to allow what the body wants to unfold. And it's not really up to our minds to decide what the healing is going to look like, what processes are going to always work. And for instance, like this morning, I had a client that we were doing the zinc, but then the zinc became, zinc is very, very antagonistic to copper. So then the copper starts to get pushed out, And what happens is the copper gets pushed out, and then you're going to have symptoms that we call it the copperheads symptoms. And these are not fun. Detoxing copper is no fun, but that's what started to happen. Like copper detox symptoms are like sometimes diarrhea, sometimes emotional ups and downs. You feel sad one moment, and the next moment, you're just angry, a lot of emotional changes. So a lot of copper detox can be pretty intense, but we couldn't have predicted that this was going to come this soon. So then we just had to pull back and say, okay, we're going to take a little break from the zinc. This is why I tell you, all of you, to take a little break from your zinc. Yes, zinc is great for your immune system, but if you have high copper, which often happens for females, okay, because copper has connections with estrogen and connection with mercury and other heavy metals. And then also copper is one of those things that we accumulate if you're vegetarian and vegans. So, we have to just kind of like go along with it. Okay, just don't get stuck in it. Change it around. Okay, just because somebody said zinc is good for you doesn't mean it's always good for you. So I hope you're reading the waves more. Remember, that's the topic. We're reading the waves, okay, not just writing the waves. We're able to start read the temperatures, reading the shifts, the subtle changes, subtle difference in the waves. So I hope that's making a little bit of sense. And when you're feeling the uncertainty, a lot of us will go and, like I said, Google, and we gather as much information as possible. But what that means is you're going to start to try to work on your brain only. Your mind takes over. And then, but the heart knows that you'll be okay. Heart knows that you belong here. So if you can just stop your movements, stop your Googling, okay, and say, what if I just sank deeply into my heart for a moment? Place your hands on your heart center. It's really amazing. The moment you put your hands on your heart goes, oh, thank you. You came home. You're home now. Okay. We all have a home, which is here. So that's when, no matter what's happening outside of you or inside your home, actual home, your inner home knows how to settle back in. So this gesture is very important. Namaste gesture is very important. So whenever you touch the sternum right here in the breastbone, okay, there's a tranquility point in acupuncture point right there, okay? Just like right where you point with your fingers, that's where your hands will always go, to that point. So you don't have to even look for it. You just go like this and it'll go right to that point. That's the point that will get you to come back home. That will settle in to the placid lake inside you, the still point, the 0 point, the quiet point. Okay, so you know where that is. It's right here. Okay, it will never leave you. Okay, so I think, Chris, do you want to add a couple more things at all? Then I'm going to start answering the questions.
Related to what's coming up in the chat, and then let's go through some of the comments. But
okay,
I just want to reflect something that I'm seeing a few of you mention in your comments, but also just to touch on what Masami said. When we talk about health and healing, it is so important not to strive for perfection, whatever that is in your mind. Okay, that's just an idea. That's something that's very important to get straight, is that whatever your idea about perfect health, full recovery, any of those kinds of ideas is, it's just an idea. And it's not only an idea, it's actually a pretty oppressive idea. I can speak to this personally, and so can Masami. We've both been through very devastating health injuries and experiences. And it's natural as part of the recovery process to want and wish to return to what was, which that's not how time moves. Time moves forward. So we don't have that option available to us. So the question that we've had to work with, and that we've worked with all of the clients and groups that we've talked to and worked with over the years, is how do you, it comes back to uncertainty, but how do you stay in that unknown place while also witnessing and watching what is changing, what is healing? Because even in the midst of the unknown, there are still things happening that are moving you forward. And what we'll often say, and I'll use this term here, is we'll call health dynamic equilibrium. Okay, dynamic equilibrium, which just means health is a moving target. It's always shifting and moving and changing based on circumstances and age and whatever else is going on in our lives. So it's almost like in order to have health that is dynamic, you have to have a certain amount of it that's unresolved. You have to have something that still is problematic, maybe is how you experience it, but it's not something you can put to rest. It's a question. So back to what I said earlier, you're still keeping the question alive so that you can live into it at some point when you're ready to understand what it's been to you. So I just want to put that out.
Joanne says it right too here. It says, when you said that a few weeks ago that there is no such thing as perfect health, really liberated me in so many ways. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's something, that's an important thing to come to terms with. And I'll tell you, from my own experience, when I realized that I was healed enough to return to relationship with the world,
Mm-hmm.
that was a turning point in my life. I was
The key word is enough.
yeah,
It's the enoughness. What is your enoughness?
yeah,
Is enough when somebody's pouring a glass of water for you? Enough will probably end around 80% point, right? Anything more than that would start to overflow. So it's, where is your enough point? Is it 80%, 83%? Just, you have to kind of tune into yourself. And I'm sorry, Chris, I cut you off here, but Japanese saying of hara hachibu means have 80% full enoughness in your system. So it's the 80-20 rules that, I think a lot of books been written, but that's been the saying that I grew up with, is 80-20. Where's your enoughness? And can you be in that and be in contentment with it, knowing that you may still be dealing with pain, you may still be dealing with some kind of issues. Those will always come. Like he said, it's a dynamic, right? We want to be dynamic with our living, and it's always a moving target. So don't get stuck in this idea that I must look like this and health means perfect. So it's the healing versus curing. I'm healed, meaning I went through a healing process with my MS, but I'm not cured of it, everyone. I deal with so much pain and issues like all the time, but I'm 80% of the time, I feel pretty good, because healing means wholeness. I feel whole in me. That doesn't mean I don't wake up and go, oh, I have some pain here. I got work to do. That's okay, because I still feel whole.
I wanted
So
to go
sorry.
back to that point again. Janice asked if I could repeat something I said, and I think it was the part about being healed enough to return to the world and to relationship with the world. And let me just say one more thing about that, which is when you're experiencing physical breakdown or mental breakdown, I mean, the two often come together. It's hard not to have one without the other, really. There's a point where it's very easy to feel like you're done. You're just too broken to function anymore or to be with people. And that's a hard thing, because we are wired to be with others. And so to have that feeling within yourself is a really devastating experience all to itself. But we don't have to be perfect either in returning to that relationship. And that's what I was getting at, is that when you reach a point, and it really has so much to do with how much energy you're able to return to your system, to hold in your system. That's what so much of this work is about, is keeping the energy within. And we could go into that about the biophotonic energy of cells and all this other stuff, which is fascinating. But really for now, just know that if you can start to hold just a little more of your energy, you're going to start developing that capacity for healing, and it's going to allow you to come back to life. I mean, that's really what is important. So yeah, so yeah, Iris says perfection is a disease that keeps us stuck, keeps us small, too safe, and protected. And absolutely, you can't grow if you're always armored. It's like, the Tibetan teacher Chogyam Trungpa talked about, you have to wear your heart on your sleeve, and that living from the heart is actually like turning yourself inside out, so that all of your defenses are removed and revealed, and all of your softness is exposed to the world. And that takes a lot of energy to live that way too. But one last thing before we look at some of the comments here, is something one of my really key teachers said to me one time, is that, well, there are two things he said that really stayed with me. One was that no one ever won the battle against what is. Okay, no one ever won the battle against what is. And so fighting against circumstances and trying to remake them, or force them into some other shape that they're not, or that you would prefer to have more, you're just creating more suffering for yourself. You're spinning your wheels and using your energy in a really counterproductive way. So what's here, what's really actually here, that takes some investigation. And then also another thing that he said that goes with that is that whatever the circumstances are in our lives are exactly what is here for us. That doesn't mean we asked for them. That doesn't mean we have to like them, but that's our life. These are our circumstances. So this is what has been given to us to learn from and to grow through. And if we can step back and not say, but that's not what I want, okay, well, you don't have to want it, but that's what's here. So again, nobody ever won the battle against what is. So start with what is, start with what's here, and then start seeing what else is here besides what you see and what you notice from your typical way. We talked about the reality tunnels last week. From your familiar way of looking, what are you missing? What are you screening out? Okay, so comments.
Well, Richard, said, and I didn't need to read any further. Richard says, what's happening in my life right now is the fact that I am living in a house which is managed by a man who is a type A person. So I don't need to read any further. But, type A, perfectionist, it's a tough one because I guess if the weather was always, you guys, I love that movie, The Truman Show, right? I keep bringing that up for some reason, but The Truman Show, every day is the same weather, and every day is this nice, beautiful blue sky. How would you feel if you lived in that kind of an environment, So, Richard, what I feel for you. And at the same time, I think you need to get out a little bit into the nature. You've been missing nature. Trees are calling for you, Richard. And you can comment, but I think you need to get your body touching bare feet on the ground a bit more. All right? Because you have a nature child in you. All right. So, and other things, any other ones that you wanted to comment, Chris?
Yeah, so the questions that I put up were, how does uncertainty show up for you, and how do you respond or react to it? So just a couple of the questions, maybe we can comment on some of these as we go, but Tara said, what's my purpose during this transition? How can I help the collective? So those are some big picture questions. And, my gut sense on that kind of question is right back to where I was mentioning just a minute ago, is what's going on right now, right around you. Because I know from my own experience that when I'm dissatisfied with my immediate circumstances, my tendency is to pole vault over them and to go see if I can find something more interesting and exciting to spend my time on instead of resolving what's happening right around me. And so, I mean, we're all participating in the world just by being here. So you don't have to do anything bigger than you're already doing to already have an impact on the world. But the question is, what are your immediate circumstances asking of you, whether you like it or not? That would be one point that I would say about that. Do you have anything?
Well, I think the word purpose gets a little bit heavy. You know, it's a weighted word too. Are you talking about Tara's? What's my purpose during this transition? Okay, yeah. What is my purpose? I mean, first of all, are you breathing? That's kind of where I go, you know, like I go back to my body again. It's like my purpose right now is to breathe. My purpose right now is to sit and be in this group together, hold the space together and breathe as community. That's my purpose. So I think we have actually created such a pressure towards what is my purpose? What is my expression? Who am I supposed to be? And we forget that can we just be here right now and have a purpose in this moment and just be with it just for the sake of this moment's sake. Um, Once we start practicing that more and more, I think the next moment will start to unfold a little bit more easily. And it becomes less of this kind of like, I must find my calling, I must find my purpose. Because it feels like if you don't have the purpose, then somehow we're less of a human being or something like that. But has nothing to do with that. It's, are you in this moment? Are you breathing? Do you see the preciousness of this breath? You know, Joanne commented last Monday. It's like the comment that I make all the time. It's like, you cannot breathe for yesterday. You can't breathe for tomorrow. You can only breathe for this moment. Maybe that is your purpose right now. That is your purpose, to be here right now, because your soul chose to be here right now. So there's got to be something here. So I would become a little more curious about this moment, much more than be curious about the moments that are a month away, a year away, you know, so on and so forth, and take your energetic field out there, because then you lose the energy in this moment. It's all about how do we work with our prana, right? That's something we've been talking about as a group. It's like, how do we hold that prana, your precious life force, so you don't scatter them in different areas? And the basket is right here in the bundle. So I do have some questions I need to answer that came in through the Facebook. So let me do that first so I don't miss it, and then we'll come back around. So this is a very common question I get, is about eyes. And I do get this question a lot when women and men tend in their 70s, but this person is in early 60s and cataracts issues. So cataracts are, you know, major eye issues, right? And I'm sure some of you maybe even already experienced some surgeries to remove the crystalline lens to, you know, clear your eyes. But why do they come about, and what can you do about it? What are some of the things that could be preventive? I think that's where I'm more interested in. But whenever I hear eye issues, I immediately go to the place of the person is not nourishing herself. So that's kind of where I went. It's like, why isn't she nourishing her own inner vision? Why isn't she looking in to see if she sees who she is as purely this beautiful being? So I don't know if you're on this call, but I know you've posted on my Facebook. So you may want to post it again, but it's like, I want you to see you for who you are. And I immediately went to, and I know I'm not talking to you directly, so I don't get to ask you questions, but I went straight to possibly your husband or your partner that you are with. And there's a restrictions around with that person. There's little bit of you're losing flexibility in your own movements, in your own thinking, and in your own vision, because there are restrictions And I think it's but he is putting a little bit of walls around so you don't get to completely shine and see beyond where you're at. So there's a little bit of rigidity that it's not necessarily coming from you, but it's been put on by the person that you're living with. And that's something that I wanted to make sure I addressed. And there's some conflicts there with him that's continuing. It's been continuing for a long time, and it's hardening inside you. And so your vision becomes blur. You can't see through what you envision who you to become because you're still young, early 60s. This is your second life, right? Particularly for women. I mean, this is like second blossoming time. So I don't sense that from you, the second blossom that but would love to have you experience is been stifled. And malnourishment is a big one with the eyes. So I'm just going to give you guys a little bit so you have some tangible things you can start to do. So if you have any vision issues, any kind of eyesight issues, nighttime visions are deteriorating, like you can't drive at night anymore because everything blurs, or like feels like a rain after the rain and everything's shining back at you and you have a hard time at nighttime. All those things, focus is getting worse. Then you want to look at vitamin A, number one. Okay, vitamin A, vitamin E. But those are fat soluble vitamins. So what that means is that you're most likely not digesting your fats. And you know what that means for most of you that have been with me. Means you're not digesting the fats, means you got to work on your liver and gallbladder, right? And the zinc is going to be very important. Okay, but zinc has to be digested, and make sure you take zinc with the food. Okay, also B vitamins. That's why I said it's a malnourishment issues, because you're going to be needing a lot more vitamins: A, E, zinc, B, and then specifically to cataract, because that was the question I received. This is directly connected to your liver, because you need to have some glutathione. Okay, glutathione can be produced, conjugated from NAC. So you could take NAC, but when I muscle test with you on NAC, I get no on. So please take the glutathione, which has already been conjugated. So it'd be easier for you. And methylfolate. Methylfolate is going to be great. And let me see. I wrote down taurine, but I get no on you on that one. For some of you, you might say yes on taurine, but the person that asked me this question, I get no. Sulfur-rich foods, so broccoli and other like cruciferous vegetables, those are going to be very important. Maybe start introducing some eggs. Okay. And let's not go down the road of medical medium guy with the no eggs things. I'm not going down that road today. All right. And poor calcium metabolism is a big one. That means you're not digesting the foods you're eating. So you got to go to the stomach and do something with the stomach acid. So it gets kind of complicated. Eyes are truly the windows into your life, window into you. So when things start to show up on your eyes, that means your entire body requires some assistance. Okay. And I do feel that there's some upsets and grudge that's being held. Okay. And I'm just going to briefly say one more thing is that, this one, it might be unique to a lot of you. Okay. So when the cataracts happen, that's kind of a calcification that happens in your eyes. And what your body actually needs is phosphorus. Okay. Phosphorus. And Chris can write down how to, spell phosphorus. But phosphorus actually breaks the calcium and balances the calcium levels in your blood, your bones, and in eyes and soft tissues and so on and so forth. So phosphorus is great. I use phosphorus for people that tend to get morning sicknesses also, because that means that person's liver is not quite detoxing. So you might want to look into taking like a liquid phosphorus and putting that into water. So those are just a couple things. I know, Chris, you wanted to mention omega-3s, but let's make sure we don't, go too long. Okay.
I don't need to say much more. I think that's the
Okay.
key, is that you have to be digesting your food so that your body can actually benefit from the nourishing nutrients that you're taking in. That's really when things, like Masami said, if things are showing up in your eyes, in your actual eyeball, that's when you're seeing these other systemic factors. So having omega-3 fats is very important to the process also. I won't go into why that is at the moment, just we're short on time today, but that's
Just in general, sorry, glaucoma, floaters, directly, you got to work on your bioflow directly. Okay. And glaucoma in cataracts are, am I saying it?
cataract.
Cataracts. It's such a hard word for me. Cataracts are not similar, but vitamin A is going to be extremely important for glaucoma, much more than the cataracts, because cataracts are more of a calcification issues too. So phosphorus is going to be much better for that. But for glaucoma, I would definitely get going on liquid vitamin A. Okay.
I would just add to this for these and all health questions that it still comes back to balance.
Yeah.
Okay, it still comes back to balance. Basic function, foundations, hydration. Are you taking care of yourself? Are you resting? Are you sleeping? All of those things are going to have a direct impact. So even though we can mention specific nutrients and functional molecules all day long,
Yeah.
those are not the answer alone. You can never replace the foundation work of just taking care of yourself. And I wanted to say, if I can segue that to one other, a lot of the comments that are coming in, and I wanted to have us touch on one in a minute here. I know you had another thing to talk about,
We
but
might have to do that next week, but
maybe we should. Maybe we should.
Yeah, Richard said, thank you, Masami. Yes, I do need to get out into nature more. You do.
Yeah,
Nature misses you. Okay.
I
So as
just,
much as you miss it. So
yeah. So that I want to go to a comment that Zila made, which is, let me find it again. It's about, I'm so overwhelmed in my personal life, caretaking illness 24/7, all alone and exhausted and ready to give up. Can't find support. What should I focus on to go on?
wow. I feel that. I feel that one.
Me too.
Can we just take a moment and send her? Let me just see where she needs it. Where she needs to support everyone, believe it or not, are her ankles. So if you could imagine that all of you are gently like holding her ankles and getting her grounded in this moment with us. Okay. Just holding gently on her ankles. Let's see. The light that's coming to me is definitely golden color, like a really bright, beautiful gold. And just see if you could root that, help her root her feet. So let's take a moment and do that for her. That's a lot to carry on her heart. Do you see that the heart and her breathing feels very shallow to me? So if you can breathe out of your feet, and the only thing you need to do, okay? So all of us will hold the ankles for you with the golden light, and we're rooting them for you. What you need to do is just breathe out of your feet. Breathe out of your feet. Good. That's good, everyone. Thank you for doing that for her. And then one thing popped in my head that's practical. I want you to soak your feet. Get yourself like a really cheap bucket, feet soaking bucket. And you can put Epsom salt. You could do magnesium flakes and then soak your feet at least 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh my gosh, your body's like every night. I was like, no, she has no time for every night. But your body's like every night. Your feet would love to be soaked in that ocean. That's the ocean. You get to create the ocean in your feet. So see if you could do that. Okay. Hopefully you felt that from us too.
I wanted to add to that really quickly a visualization that we learned from a teacher many years ago, which was to I'm not going to take you through it right now, but just imagine that when you have a moment to sit down, Zila, just take yourself into a place where you sit down and imagine that you have this tube of light. Maybe it's like a bluish kind of tone, but a tube of light that goes from your root chakra all the way down to the center of the earth. And each time you need to have that moment of relieving yourself of a burden or the troubles or whatever stress you're carrying, just send it down that tube. Just keep feeding it to the earth. It has plenty of room to take everything you have and more. So just try that too.
Yeah, and it was Zila, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I muscle tested multiple vitamins right now. Like I went through rapid pace, and where I got the ding from was magnesium. I want you to start taking magnesium much more. If you're taking them, yes, I get a yes, much more than what you've been taking, double, triple. Okay. I would love for you to start gradually tripling the amount of magnesium you're taking. And do not take magnesium, everyone, okay? With food. Magnesium needs to be taken away from food, okay? So they don't turn into soap. They turn into like a soapy material if you take it with food. So up your magnesium. And as you know, the magnesium flakes, no wonder that came. I was like, why am I talking about the foot soap? But that makes sense because that you get magnesium through the feet. Okay. And if you don't have a gallbladder, Argenia, you can start to do a lot more bile salts work. So look into bile salts, whether it's ox bile salts or what's that word, Chris, that we're talking about?
Yeah, it's really it might be harder to get this one, but it's called I'll put it up in the chat. It's an acronym for a molecule. It's UDCA.
No,
Well, the as a supplement, you can find it more as a U, but it might also be with a T. So I'll put both of them.
Tudka?
Yeah.
Tudka.
Tudka or Tudka sometimes.
Yeah. So it's what this is it's called a secondary bile. And it's something that in a healthy body, your gut microbiome is actually going to make from bile. So it creates this other substance which is used by all of your cells. You need it throughout your entire body. And another thing that can help you with this again is making sure you're balancing with omega-3 fatty acids. So you're digesting and also getting the
so get going on it ASAP. If you don't have gallbladder, you've got to get going to bile salts. And I call it Tudka, but I know it sounds like
yeah.
It's probably Tudka, but
it's toro urso deoxycholic acid is what
I think it's just easier for me to remember. Tudka. It sounds kind of something that comes out of your butt.
That's why we use the acronym.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so Zila says, oh, my blessings, bless you for this. I'm still crying in such gratitude. You are so welcome. And I'm so glad you came and asked that question because we can all hold the ankles for you. So imagine your, ankles are spreading, like your roots are spreading. You're like two trees coming together. That's why you're able to help so many people. That's because you're not just the one trunk of a tree. I see you as two trees coming together. All right. So, and do the magnesium for sure. All right. And Joanne, I know you have your hand up. You still have a question? Do you want to ask? Okay, hold on. Then we'll wrap up hold on. Okay. Yeah, there you go.
Actually, I just wanted to finish a comment because when you mentioned that before, and it's very true. I want to first say, there's not a single class that we have that there isn't at least a number of golden nuggets that I take away and contemplate. And I really appreciated what Chris said today, was that if we are certain about, and I'm somebody that functions, I'm very certain about so many things. I'm very commanding personality. But I appreciated what he said, that if we are certain about things, we shut off contemplating about them. And so that's one of my golden nuggets today. I really thank you. And then the comment that I made about how that liberated me about the perfect health is because I have been a perfectionist, learning to live with the words, it's good enough.
Yeah.
Which my father always said, there's no such thing as good enough. So it's been a process getting past that. And what I realized was I was competing with myself for perfect health. Instead of loving myself for who I was competing with myself. So that was the other piece I just wanted to share verbally instead of writing in the chat. So thank you so much. Because when we stop competing with ourselves, when I stop competing with myself, I can love myself more, you know. And my urine's finally turned a little yellow. I've now like today, yay, I see yellow. That means I'm taking enough B vitamins.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. You and I have been trying to get your B up for months now. So
I know. So I feel that, so that's enough.
okay, thank you, Joanne, for sharing that. That means a lot to us because, you know, sometimes we're like, are we talking, like, are we getting through? Like, is this too much? Shall we stop? So nice hearing the feedback. So thank you. And I'm gonna mute you, but thank you. And you know, one thing that I would love to, in wrapping up, hopefully some of you or many of you watched the Breath Summit. It was beautifully done. I thought it was really well done. And if you enjoyed my presentation, will you let the Shift Network know, please, that you enjoyed it? And if you didn't, please don't let that Shift Network know that you didn't enjoy. Only comment if it was good. Okay, that would really help the Shift Network to invite me again on other summits, or maybe a breath summit again. So breath work. So please express. You know, that's one of the things that the Chris finds me. I'm sure he finds me cute because I do this all the time. Is that I would on the receipt of a store, I write the person that helped me, their names, and then I go home and I write an email to the headquarters. And then I say, this person from this store, and this person's name was this, and it was great. And I actually literally do this. And I say that to the person. Sometimes Chris, like, we got to get going, because I'm still talking to the person and thanking the person for being so wonderful. And, you know, but I think we all could use some of that, right? We could all hear that and say it to one another. So, you know, we both so appreciate you coming on every Monday, you know, and showing up as who you are fully, because we love you. We love doing this. So
there's a lot of good feedback in the chat that people really enjoyed your summit. So yeah, please do comment on the Shift Network. And if we need to wrap up for today, but if it's okay, I'm going to share a quote from it's from one of my favorite. He's a Zen teacher. He's no longer in the world with us anymore, but Dainin Katagiri is his name. And this was a quote that really struck me when I read it in one of his books several years ago. But it totally connects with what we're talking about today. And he says, if you want to take better care of tomorrow, take better care of today. We always live now. All we have to do is entrust ourselves to the life we now live. So take care of this moment. That's the goal that we can each take away. Take care of this moment.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for reminding all of us to do that. And for those of us that live in the United States, let's definitely do that more for the next couple of days and stay grounded, feel the golden light, and share the golden light through the feet. And let's change this earth first. I think we pay a little bit too much attention to the cosmos. Me too. But let's fill this earth with the golden nectar. Okay. Golden, flooded with the golden light. That's what I want. So at the end, let's all come together, close our eyes. Let's come back to this moment for 10 to 30 seconds. Let's flood this earth with golden light. All of us coming together like a giant mangrove forest where our roots are all connected with one another. Thank you. Namaste, everyone. We'll see you next Monday and looking forward to it. Bye till now. Bye till then. Bye till now. Bye till now.
Bye till now. Love you.
Love
Thank
you.
you guys.
Thank you.